this right here is healthy vegan rustic style bread made with no oil, no wheat, no refined sugar, and no rice. Today is roasted garlic and rosemary with sun-dried tomatoes. It's smelling up the kitchen and I can't wait to taste it. But first, I'm going to show you how to make your own. Alright, so welcome to the Make Your Own Cooking Show. For those of you who don't know me, I am Javon, and what I do is show you how to make healthier versions of your favorite foods using minimal processed ingredients with no oil, no wheat, no refined sugar, and no rice. Today what I'm making, you're going to absolutely love. I'm making a rustic style bread that is rosemary, roasted garlic with sun-dried tomatoes. And for those of you who have made my buns or my bread loaf, this recipe is very similar, but there are a few things that I changed up. So you couldn't make it the exact same way. I'm going to tell you what the variations are. Let's start with our flour. We're using some organic sprouted millet flour here. We're using some psyllium husk. We're using some oregano, some baking soda and baking powder, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, some date paste, a little salt, some garlic. Now I've already roasted this garlic. This is roasted garlic that we're using. Some rosemary and some sun-dried tomatoes. And that's going to be the ingredients to this delicious bread. Let's get started. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. I forgot to mention we're also going to put some ground flax in this bread too. All right, now let's get started. All right, so now that we have all of our dry ingredients, we're going to get them mixed together right now. So I'm going to start with my millet flour.
So you can certainly buy your millet flour, but I've found that if the millet flour isn't really fresh, it can have a bitter taste. So I typically buy millet and then grind my own to ensure that it's going to be nice and fresh.
Okay, so now we've got our dried ingredients mixed in our bowl. Now what we want to do is add our sun-dried tomatoes. Now I want to talk about these a little bit. So these are organic sun-dried tomatoes. The only thing that was added was some salt to help preserve the tomatoes. So I don't need any salt. Now I put it in my recipes for you guys, and then you can adjust and add more or less depending on your preference, but I don't need any salt. So what I do with a product like this is I took these and I soaked them in water in a bowl for about 30 minutes or so. And then I rinsed them and moved them around and washed them a little bit. I did it about 2 or 3 times. Then I put them in a colander and sprayed them again. So I tried to remove as much sodium as I could. So it's basically now a low sodium food. But now we're gonna add these to our bread. Let's do it.
If you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe below.
Okay, now let's combine our wet ingredients.
So now I'm mixing my wet ingredients, and as I mentioned, I'm going to be adding my psyllium husk here, and it needs time to settle and set, and this is why we mix our wet ingredients separately. Once it's formed into a gel, we'll add it to our dry ingredients and then go from there.
Okay, so I've mixed my psyllium husk with my other wet ingredients and I sat it aside so that it could thicken. And if you look at it, you can see now that it's thickened, and this is the result that we want before we mix it with our dry ingredients, which we're going to do right now.
So as I often say, healthy cooking doesn't have to be complicated. We mixed our dry ingredients together, then our wet. Now we're combining the two and mixing them together also.
All right, so the next step is to get our dough onto the pan, and those of you who have been watching me make bread know that I like to wet my hands to do this to keep the dough from sticking so much. So I'm going to wet them a little bit more, and let's get it done.
Now by all means, you could take the dough and put it into a typical loaf pan and make a nice uniform loaf of bread, but I'm going for a rustic style here.
All right, now one more thing I want to do before I put this in the oven is I want to put a sprig of rosemary on top. So I'm going to just take a sprig of rosemary and put it here. And then I think I'll sprinkle a little loose rosemary over top as well. All right, let's get this in the oven. Okay, so our bread is cooked and out of the oven. Now the only thing I have to do is let it cool off before I cut it. You want to completely cool it before you start to cut the bread. So I'm going to put it on my cooling rack. And I can tell you, it smells good. I can smell the tomatoes, I can smell the rosemary, the garlic. I'm telling you, it smells really good. Can't wait to cut into this and try it.
So all we have to do now is wait for our bread to cool, but trust me, that can be harder than it sounds when it's smelling this good.
Okay, so now we're ready to cut our bread. Now I've been letting this sit for about a true hour, and now it's nice and cool, which is the way you want it before you cut into it. Now let's cut and see just how beautiful this bread is.
Okay, so now for the fun part, it's time to cut and taste, and I hope you guys are appreciating how easy it can be to make healthy vegan recipes like this bread.
So I've got it all sliced up, and I don't have to tell you, this bread looks absolutely delicious. I can't wait to taste it for you, of course. So let's have a bite. And I want to get a part with lots of tomatoes, lots of sun-dried tomatoes. Wow. I gotta tell you. Wow, that's good. This is so on point. If you like breads like this, you've got to try this one, guys. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. This is good. So I've had a lot of people write me and ask me how to find the recipes to the cooking show videos like the one you just watched. If you're having trouble finding the recipe, look below the video for the word more. Tap on the word more and you'll see the beginning of the recipe. Tap on the word more again and the full recipe will appear, and then you can begin to make your own. Thanks for watching.